Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Glad to see you all this morning. Again, you're seeing me, I'm not seeing you, but I would love to see you. So maybe take a picture and post it below or something like that. I'm not sure. We are in week 4 of our series, Storyteller, and I've said for the past few weeks how much I love stories. And I'm so excited to share a specific story with you all this morning that Jesus told. We like to call those parables, a teaching story. Jesus told them all the time. And I'm excited to share it with you this morning. But before we kind of get into that, I want to ask you guys a question that I won't be able to hear a response to. But what is one of your... So think about maybe a favorite story you have, a favorite movie, book, TV show, play, whatever that might look like, comic book maybe. Think about the villain and think about maybe that moment where the hero overcomes whatever their obstacle was, whatever that might look like for them. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was arrogance or hubris, maybe they just finally had to be selfless or give something up, whatever it looked like. And think about how the villain gets their comeuppance, if that's the right word, the retribution moment, right? It's when the villain, you know, the ploy that they have all set up like unravels because of the hero's great, amazing choice, and then the hero triumphs and the villain goes, no, and like, you know, I'm melting. Or maybe the villain gets, I think about in Hercules when, Hercules overcomes Hades and he's being kind of like trapped in the underworld or something. It's something like that, right? And often we can kind of go to Disney movies because they do like really imaginative villains getting their comeuppance. And those are always moments where we go, yes, awesome. Like they made the heroic choice. Like he or she did the thing and yeah, the villain got what was coming to him. And that makes us feel good. We feel like there is still good in the world when good triumphs over evil. We never want evil to win out. And so those moments of comeuppance we feel really, really great about. In movies, actually, up until, I don't know exactly when the date was, when the choice was made by the Movie Federation, the people that oversee the making of movies, but you actually could not have a villain win in any way, shape, or form. That was a specific thing that you had to have in a movie script, was that whoever is the villain, or group of villains, whatever it looks like, they can't succeed. They could succeed in the short term, but then the protagonist, the good hero, the winner, they have to overcome them, and it has to be kind of in a complete sort of way. One of the first movies, if not the first movie to ever have a villain kind of get away with it a little bit, was actually in the famous Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life. If you guys haven't seen that one, it's a great movie. My family watches it every year. It's in black and white, but it's like real good. Jimmy Stewart is like, he's the best. You should check him out. But it's the story where he basically kind of wishes he was never born, right? And he gets the chance to glimpse into a world where he never existed. And he realizes how much worth he brings to life, even though he kind of just got down a dark path thinking that, oh, people would just be better off if I was dead. And so he gets that glimpse, and it's this beautiful movie where he really realizes the worth of a human life, even though he didn't think he had that much of an impact. You have a great impact in your life. Check that movie out if you're ever feeling like you don't. But there's a specific character, the bad guy, is Potiphar. And this is someone who's kind of a rival bank, this like competing company for the main character and his family and stuff. And at a certain point, Potiphar gets his hands... Is it Potiphar? Oh man, I was just blending stories in my head. It's someone. I might just have thrown in something from Genesis there. Well, we'll find out. But so this villain, the bad guy in the story, he gets his hands on a bunch of money that belongs to the main character, George Bailey, and he keeps it. And nothing ever happens to it. It just disappears. Other people pitch in, and George realizes the love that he has from those around him. And he just gets away with the money. And there you go. And the Movie Federation allowed it. We got to this place in movies and cinema where suddenly, oh yeah, okay, the bad guy can get away with something. And now we have movies where the protagonist is kind of actually the villain, or maybe, you know, the villain gets away with it completely and just the hero ends the story kind of broken or something like that. We've done a lot more complex stories and things like that. But I think as just humans, we really like having a story that ends with the good guys win, the bad guys lose, and there's that kind of moment of comeuppance there. And so I wanted to tell you guys about, for me in my life, that's something that I've really felt kind of like powerful about, is that there needs to be retribution. There needs to be righteous justice, you know? And it's so hard because in life that doesn't always happen. Potter. I think his name was just Potter. Not Potiphar, Potter. There we go. Great. But we want the bad guy to get their comeuppance. And so there's been certain times in my life where I've been wronged in different ways. Some of them small, some of them kind of just getting made fun of in certain ways. Other ones kind of getting really hurt in other ways, both emotional and like just straight up physical. We can sort of start, I used to think about it as painting someone black. Just sort of in your mind, it's like, great, you're blacklisted. You know, it's just, there's the light, there's the good, and there's the darkness, and you're in the darkness. And you just sort of place them in the light good category or the darkness evil category. And I've done that with certain people in my life, and I've had to kind of go back through that list over time and go, they're not that bad of a person, but they did a bad thing. They did something that hurt somebody, and it was me or a family member. There's an individual that really kind of wronged one of my family members in a lot of ways in like a business sense. Not exactly similar to the characters in It's a Wonderful Life. No, like money was stolen inside of an envelope that was like wrapped in a newspaper and left behind. You don't know what I'm talking about. Watch the movie. But so there was this kind of business wronging of one of my family members. And for years, I basically took that person who wronged one of my family members and it was like, great, you're blacklisted. I don't want good things for you anymore. You're a bad person and you don't deserve my consideration, even my thought. They would come up in conversation every once in a while and it always like, oh, I hate them. Why? Because they hurt my family. Don't you dare hurt my family. That was the kind of, that mindset, right? I had no forgiveness in my heart for that person. Why? Because they didn't deserve it. They didn't need forgiveness. They won in the end. They got away with it, right? And that's where I sat for many, many years. And honestly, it really got to a point where my other family members had clearly forgiven this person. My family member who was directly wronged by them had forgiven them. They had a relationship and stuff. They'd like go out to dinner and do things and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, how can you even be around that person? How can you do that? I had less forgiveness in my heart for them than the people who were more directly wronged. What does that say about me? Why am I struggling with that? And, you know, time goes by and I sort of stopped thinking about this person, but then I heard that this person had some really difficult medical issue and that things were just really not going well for them. And in kind of the story, if you wanted to paint that as this whole picture kind of thing, that would be the moment of comeuppance. It's, oh my gosh, you didn't actually get away with it. You, in fact, are sick in this way. Haha, yay. Oh no, you're a real person that's really hurting. That's not a good thing. That's not a moment of victory. It's just sad now. Why wasn't I able to forgive you? I wasn't able to see you as a human being. You were this idea, but I had replaced your humanity, your God-given Christ-likeness. You're a child of God that I had taken out of the light and put into the dark because of an action that, maybe you did that out of fear. We always look at these villains and go, oh yeah, you're the villain because of these reasons. Really, they're villains because of hurt. Hurt people hurt people. Rick Warren will often say that. When you see someone hurting someone else, I challenge you to look at the perpetrator, the person doing the wrong, and say, obviously you're hurting so much that you have to do this. There's some need within you. I have a friend of mine, and he shared a story once about how he was someone who would trip kids out of wheelchairs in school and laugh at them as they fell to the ground. He was that villain, and how did he get to that place? He would go home and be physically abused every day. All of that anger, all of that rage got poured out on other people that were less fortunate and couldn't defend themselves. And this is a great person, but there was so much hurt that hurt got transferred elsewhere. I challenge you to start seeing hurt like that. Can you do that? Do you have enough space in your heart for that? And that's a really hard question too. That's not something that we just go, oh yeah, you know what? I have a deep well of love in my heart for everyone. Doesn't matter who. Jesus loves you. Come on, let's go grab a milkshake and a burger. We get wronged, or people we care about get wronged, and we think, oh, you need retribution, justice, right? We have this craving for revenge. Revenge stories are so exciting when they overcome the abuser or the assailant, the bad person in the story. Sweet revenge, right? Christ tells us to turn the other cheek. Christ says, don't seek revenge or retaliate. Given, protect yourself. But don't retaliate is more of what that's asking for. You're not contractually obligated as a Christian to be a pacifist. There's a lot of warriors in the Bible. Let's talk about war stories. We can get there. But Jesus is saying, hey, it's not about revenge. Often, it's not even always about justice. And we should strive for justice. That is a good thing. But what we should strive more for is righteousness, right? Righteous justice. Was it just that Christ died for you? No. Our wages of sin is death. It is just for us to die. It was righteous justice that God sent his son to die for us because we are so loved. He took the penalty, and justice was settled, like metaphysical, universal justice, so that we could dwell forever with God in heaven. So justice was served, but righteous justice was shown so that we don't have to. Thank God for righteous justice. I want to read a story for us today. Again, a parable that Jesus taught. Jesus was an amazing storyteller. Why? Because he could just wrap the room so quickly. And it's awesome. You see it all the time in the Bible. He just kind of opens his mouth and he'll start talking, and suddenly you can just feel everybody pull in. He just had this way of knowing, by the guidance of his Father in heaven and the Holy Spirit, just being able to know where everybody's at, right? Jesus walks into a room and he's not just seeing everybody's faces, smiling, waving. He's reading and feeling everybody's hearts and emotions, whatever that would look like for him. He often, the Bible says, that he knew what they were thinking, or he knew their heart in that moment and stuff. And so Jesus, he walks into a room and it's almost like he can hear everybody's thoughts. He can feel everyone's feelings. He can know where everyone's hearts are at. And we have a great moment here. It's in the book of Matthew, first book of the New Testament. If you've got a Bible with you, go ahead and grab it. If you got the Bible app on your phone, go ahead and pull it up. But book of Matthew, it's chapter 18, and it's a little towards the end. So it's verse 21 is where we're going to start. Here in Matthew, there are just kind of a bunch of moments where Jesus is warning people about stuff or teaching about something. And if you've got a Bible where Jesus' words are in red, there's like a lot of red. It's a lot of him talking. And so it's Matthew chapter 18, verse 21. Let me start off for us. It says, then Peter, cool guy, walked on water. He's great. We like Peter. Peter came to Jesus and asked. Now, Peter was a guy that got it wrong a lot. He is very much us. When he's walking on water with Jesus, it's this really powerful moment, right? He sees Jesus. Jesus is doing the Jesus thing, and he thinks, I can be like Jesus, and he gets out of the water like Jesus, and then he begins to sink. Why? Because he thinks he can't be like God. He thinks he can't put on Christ-likeness. He gets afraid. He starts getting down on himself. And so here's a moment where Peter is really trying to build himself up a little bit. It's like, hey, you know what? I've gotten some things wrong. I'm trying to do this Christ-likeness thing. So here's me making a pretty big move, okay? Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, starting off strong, hey, I believe you're God. A lot of people don't, but I do. Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? All right? And now rabbis at that time, they taught that 3 times is 3 strikes and you're out, basically. And that was pretty generous for the time, because these are times if you get caught stealing, they cut off your hand. The level of retribution is very high. And so what rabbis at the time, right, the rock star, like pastor, teacher, people of that time, they would go around and they would say, hey, 3 strikes and you're out. You forgive someone 3 times, you know, and man, you're being holy. Yeah, you show forgiveness 3 times when other people are literally like, nope, you took that apple, I'm taking your hand. Right? The Old Testament puts out specific guidelines, specific laws about, hey, if someone steals a donkey or a bike, you know, from you, then you just return the bike. You don't murder the person. Right? Like there was this level of fairness that we see in the Old Testament, and that was a big deal. Right? You wouldn't cut someone's hand off for stealing an apple. They would just have to repay the apple. Maybe more if there's some undue difficulty there or something, right? But so these rabbis, they're saying, hey, even if it's unfair, you know, show forgiveness. 1 time is a lot, culturally speaking. 2 times, nice. 3 times, oh wow, there you go, right? And so Peter, he's being, hey, Jesus, here's my big move right now. Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother when he sins against me? 7 times? Up to 7 times, Jesus? And he's like, oh man, you thought 3 was a lot. Here's 7. And 7, biblically speaking, is kind of the number of completion. Often you would say like, oh, doing something 7 times, it means more than just 7. It's kind of this air of like it's the complete number. A complete forgiveness, Jesus? The number of completion. The number of completion. The number of completion. It's a big deal. And so Jesus responds, and he gives us a little something more. It says, Jesus answered, I tell you, and this is how he kind of does his Jesus thing, right? I tell you. And everyone's like, oh, here we go. Jesus is saying one of the things that he does that blow our minds, but we really want to know more about him. We're his disciples. He's our rabbi. We want to get covered in his dust. If you guys remember that from last week, they wanted to be so much like their rabbi. Jesus says, I tell you, not 7 times. And Peter is just, not 7 times, but 77 times, Peter. That's how many times I want you to forgive. And Peter's going, 77? I'm an uneducated fisherman, Jesus. I don't know if I can count that high. He doesn't say that. But Jesus is basically saying, hey, the number you thought was complete and the ultimate level of forgiveness, I want you to up it by a number you'd never considered. And what he's not saying is, all right, count exactly 77 times. He's saying, hey, your completion isn't my completion. That was a human answer you gave me, and here's a God answer. People will often say, it's not 77 times, it's just a number that you wouldn't even be able to keep track of, basically. You're not thinking, oh, I got wronged by you. 1, 2, oh, it's the 27th time. All right, 50 more to go. It's basically saying, hey, don't keep track. Don't keep a record of wrongs. Just be forgiving. Just have that be a trait about you. Be a forgiving person is what Jesus is saying. And Peter's like, oh, okay, Jesus, I got you. And Jesus, he then goes on to tell a parable, to tell a story specifically related to this. And what we're going to actually do, guys, is this is going to be a two-part message. So we're going to get into that story next week. I really look forward to it. It's got a lot in there, and so we're breaking it over these next 2 weeks. But our main idea that we're ending with today is that we need to forgive like we've been forgiven. Jesus gives Peter that God answer, saying, hey, this is how God forgives. 77 times. A magnitude greater than what you'd even ever considered, right? The rabbis at the time, they're all saying, oh yeah, 3 times because we're super holy. And Peter's going, all right, 7 times, still sort of operating in that human, earthly, worldly mindset. And Jesus says, no, it's something more. Lose track. Be a forgiving person. Have that be a character trait about you. Forgive like you've been forgiven. Because this is how God forgives in this complete way. So he's saying, hey, Peter, be like that. Be someone who forgives with a completion. What you thought was complete wasn't. This is completion, not even keeping track. When we sin and fall short, God isn't sitting up there with a judge's hammer, a gavel, and saying, I sentence you to this or this. When we do bad on a test, don't think back over your week and go, oh, it's because I sinned that I got an F on this test. No, I used to think that. I used to think, oh, if I did something wrong, God's waiting to punish me. No, Jesus forgave it all. Jesus died. God forgave it all for you because he loves you. He keeps no record of wrongs. He is forgiving. Let's be forgiving as he is forgiving. When someone wrongs you, don't just be their punching bag. That's not healthy. Have safe, healthy boundaries. We can have a circle of trust, people we trust and care about. And there will be abusers in our lives. I'm not saying, and Jesus is definitely not saying, just forgive them, go for it, and then open yourself up to more abuse. No. You can forgive someone, but they can lose trust with you. We need to earn trust back over time. That's a healthy thing. So don't give people permission to walk all over you. Don't be a doormat or a punching bag or a well of like emotional shame or pain or something like that. Especially with, hate and stuff online. Don't just take all of that hate and then be this kind of, oh, I forgive you, and now we still have the same level of trust, and so I'm opening myself up to that kind of pain again. No. Forgive the way God forgives, but protect yourself, and then give people the opportunity to build trust back over time. Forgive like you've been forgiven, because you have been forgiven so greatly. Your Father in heaven loves you. I love you too. Not to that degree, but I try real hard. And I care a lot about you. I hope that this Sunday has been a blessing for you and your family. Have a great rest of your week, you guys. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff on Instagram. Take a look. And I'm praying for you. I love you. Have a great week. Goodbye, everyone.